First off, alumni, the OG, Giancarlo Navas. What's up, man?
Good evening. How are y'all? Except for Tony. I'm kidding. I love you, man. How are you guys? Man, what a great thing that you guys are doing. And I've always said on our show, whenever we ask Heat fans to step up, they come out, man, in droves. And a lot of people nationally say bad things about this fan base. But I mean, the support that you guys have gotten tonight, the stuff that we have gotten, the stuff that Bally has done in the past, the support that Heat fans give, man, it's world class, man. So shout out to the listeners, to the fans. Just, I love our community.
I say it every single time we do something like this, but whenever they have a chance to be humans, everybody rises to the moment. It's such a beautiful thing to see. And we've raised over $1,000. We had $700 before we even started the stream tonight. So it's just been incredible, man. The generosity from everybody.
Arriving right to the stage, showing off his 5 Reasons shirt, looking great. Dos Minutos, thank you for coming in. What's up, man?
Thanks for having me on the show. It's nice to finally make it onto a real professional podcast.
Of course.
Love it. Mm-hmm. Although it's a little embarrassing to be on with Gianni, to be honest. I like to.
We have beef with the Deuces, so I don't know how long we could stay, but.
All right. I like to quickly clear up some Connecticut slander in the previous segment, which Courtney seemed to be upset that her betting show cannot run in Connecticut, which we don't like smut. We're not about smut in Connecticut. Do the smut in the other 49 states, not in our state. Keep that out.
Connectifax.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
thank you, Gianni.
Speaking of smut, great segue. Alf. I'm messing with you. I'm sorry. Alphonse Sydney. What's up, my man? How you doing?
He win. No, I'm a one-trick pony at this point. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I'm sorry, guys. I'm moving. I don't have a mic. Do I sound terrible?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Better sound quality than the Deuces.
Sean.
This is a 5 Reasons show, so I don't give a shit. I mean, sorry.
Sean,
you can curse. Feel free.
Oh, okay.
Not around Brady.
Referring to a super chat.
Brady's here. No, okay.
I feel like this isn't it.
So a super chat, great plug there. The super chats, you can pay money, and we'll put your question or whatever you want to say on the screen, and then that money is going to go off to the Nicholas Children's Hospital. So if you want to say, you want to insult us, you want to ask us questions about Heat free agency, whatever it may be, do that super chat. You can also donate directly to the Children's Hospital if you don't trust us with your money and you want to put it right to them. That link is also in the chat. You can do that directly. We just went over $1,000. The person that made that $1,000, not $1,000 donation, but put us over $1,000 was Gadiel Cartagena. Thank you for that.
Sir. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, because my whole mic situation has been weird, but I think we're good. Happy to make that $1,000 bet. Donation. Sorry, I had my Bettor's Edge stuff going through my head because I won the hat. But yeah, I'm excited. This is cool. This is cool that we're able to raise money. It's such short notice for such a good cause. So I'm glad to be here with everybody, except Yanni because he's wearing a pickleball hat. And
what? It's a Wimbledon. This is at the All England Club in Wimbledon. This is straight from the source.
I told you guys earlier.
I'm not gonna lie.
Oh Jesus! I told you guys earlier. 9 o'clock it was going to get wild, but we also had Brady Hawk here, and Brady Hawk he caught a little stray there. There was a little. We were going to send Brady Hawk to Junior Heat Camp, and Tony Fiorentino seemed open to it. Brady, I want you to let people were questioning if you could ball. I think Brady can ball, but I'm going to let you take the stage and defend yourself there.
I mean, yeah, I was just hooping today, so of course. But I think he almost made an exception. I don't know. He looked like he was debating it, so I was just like, I'll accept that. I think I'm a little outside that bracket. We were saying a little bit, but 16, 19, I feel like that's a major exception he'd have to make.
Depends. How do you feel about Karl Malone?
Oh wow.
I mean, I don't think I've ever. Who's that? I've never seen him play.
Not a fan of him. Not a good dude.
Is Brady a hooper or a baller?
Oh, he's a shooter.
I'm a hooper.
Brady's a hooper.
Who does the drip
so look, guys,
on this show? Who is the drip drop person on the show?
Oh
Tony?
My goodness! Yeah. Well,
I think it's
Who
Tony.
does the drip drops?
I was with Gianni one time, and I gave the loudest drip drop in public. I've never been more embarrassed in my life.
At the top of the Sugar Hotel, by the way, which
Yep.
caught fire the other day. So
Wow.
That
Shout
doesn't
out
seem
to the Sugar
embarrassing at
Hotel.
all. That seems really cool.
just you, me, and Miami Heat UK, and all of Biscayne Bay.
The bartender wanted to have nothing to do with us after
He
we
thought
got
you were
done with
Moose.
that.
He came over and wanted a picture. You had to explain to him that
Oh my
I'm not
gosh.
the movie guy. It was really
You know,
awkward.
at least you didn't have to play beer pong with Tony. I'll leave it at that. We thought Duncan
Oh,
Robinson
and
was cold.
Oh,
Tony-
man.
I'm correcting this story too, because you gave some nonsense on that show, and I'm going on there tomorrow to correct. Listen, the first time we played, it was 6 o'clock at night. It was or 6 a.m. and we were already like a couple beers in. Right. The next time we played, I'm fine. Wes Goldberg is missing everything. He switches teams,
nonsense.
goes on the Sean's team. All of a sudden, Wes Goldberg is Kobe Bryant. He's making every single shot. He's kicking everybody off the table. It's nuts. So this story has to be adjusted, man. You're putting me in a bad light.
What's
People
Tony
are
talking
leaving.
about right now? What's
Yeah,
Tony
nobody-
talking about?
Hey, Sean.
It's great.
Sean,
Yo,
when Coach Tony was first down, I noticed you had the lights off. Were you taking a nap? You were taking a nap, weren't you? Because I mean, we were all kind of like teetering.
no,
Did you know
man.
that Tony? Did you know that Coach Tony thinks Spo is the best coach in the NBA?
that he does.
That's
That
a
he
good
does.
take.
That he does.
A surprising take, shocking even.
So let's get to the topic at hand. The state of the Miami Heat. Much debated. You know, it's been all over the place this summer. Not a whole lot has happened. I'm going to throw it out there. Anybody that wants to jump first. What are you guys thinking? We got all these trade rumors, Durant, Mitchell. Who knows what's going to happen? Is Duncan going to stay? Is Duncan going to go? Like, what do we got going on here?
It's a catastrophe. It's the worst offseason in Miami Heat history. We lost
sleeping at
PJ
the wheel.
Tucker. Without PJ Tucker, the Miami Heat are a 10th seed at best. We're going to be fighting for the play-in with the New York Knicks. I mean, everything is over. Everything is over.
Riley's asleep at the wheel. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's absolutely asleep. I mean, KZ Okpala was right there. He's a unicorn, right? Brady's shaking his head. Brady knows. Riley, supposed all-time great, right? The alleged great. It's just, I don't know. He's just KZ Okpala right there, gone. I mean, a team once gave like 5 second-round picks for him.
Perfect 4 next to Bam.
I've been saying that for years. So,
Why
this
haven't
guy,
we signed Montrezl Harrell yet?
great defensive player right here. Just perfect, big, gives a lot of size. Just a great defender.
Christova.
Hassan Whiteside's a free agent.
A
We
team
need
gave
a
him max money once. That guy's a max talent.
And we need a real 5 next to Bam.
Rim protection.
Because we all know Bam is a small forward.
Bam's more of like a 2-guard. Brady's nodding. I think Bam's more of a 2-guard. Dose, I don't know. I know that Crab, your co-host, says this often as well, but I think he's more of a 2. I don't know if you remember when PJ Carlissimo played Durant at the 2. I kind of see it like that.
I wasn't listening to you. I blacked out.
Fair. That, like Riley at the wheel.
Yeah.
Sean, people got to stop overreacting, man. This is I don't know how many times we're not going to trust Pat and Andy and Spo. They have one bad off season, right? Because if they had kept Jay Crowder, they can't get Lowry. They have no flexibility, right? So let's not pretend that these guys don't know what they're doing. They fell in love with a 30-11 run, and that's really one of their only blemishes in like 20 years, right? So there was nobody available. They didn't want to hard cap themselves and put themselves in kind of not great salary positions by retaining Tucker on a 3rd year. So by the way, a 3rd year they didn't even want to give Dwayne Wade once upon a time. So I don't know why people are freaking out. They're gonna figure stuff out. They're gonna have moves to make in the middle of the season. They're not gonna be at the bottom of the conference that they have to crawl out of. They're gonna hover around 3 to 6. and then they're going to make a move for a 4, and then they're going to get a lot better. How many times do we have to see them do this for fans to stop overreacting? If you think that this is the exact same team that's going to open the playoffs, you're fucking delusional.
They're not going to make the playoffs. What are you talking about?
Thank you. At least finally someone's realistic here, right? That's what we've been waiting for. G's over here pumping sunshine and shit.
I'm tired of these.
Gotta hold it down for late.
I'm tired of these Miami Heat beat sunshine pumpers. Sick of them. Get off Riley's. You know what?
Speaking of reality, narcolepsy is the disease. Thank you for the super chat, Johnny. 1999. Way to just swing it right in there. In all seriousness, great job, guys. We appreciate that. We also just got a donation on the page from the Marco Romo. Thank you, Marco Romo, for coming in there, giving us that. We're up over a little bit over 1,000, approaching 1,100. We still got 100 from Ethan. We still got 100 from Coach Tony. So we're right around $1,200. Let's keep it going. Get all that money's going to Nicholas Children's Hospital. So we appreciate that. I see we got one more that just popped in from Sean Pasick. If Pat Riley pulls off a KD or Donovan Mitchell trade, is he the greatest old white man of the 21st century?
Harrison
I'm going to throw
Ford.
that to another old white man. Dose, what do you think about that?
It's Harrison Ford, clearly. Then maybe Pat Riley.
I mean, it's
debatable.
It's
I
close.
thought you were going to say Harrison Citron.
I have a hot take Harry joke. Tell me when you're ready for it.
We are. We're always ready for a hot take Harry joke.
No better time than now.
So this is something serious. Alf and Gianni know I had cancer 3 years ago. I had very bad cancer, actually, and I had to have very aggressive chemotherapy and radiation. Every day is like living in a hot take Harry timeline. That's it. Thank you. That's my time. Thank you. In all seriousness, I really did have cancer. To say something positive, I really did have cancer, and it's such a cliche, but when you're feeling poorly and you don't know how much time you're going to have, and that's the only thing that you really care about is having more time. Like, man, I'm going to miss my family. I'm going to miss spending time watching Heat games with my friends. So anybody out there listening, if you can donate a little money and just give families more time, if we can push this research forward a little bit and give families more time together, that's such a huge positive. Like, I appreciated all the support I got when I was ill. I really was ill. And, these people are doing incredible work, and we want families to stay together. So everyone can reach in their pocket and give a little bit. I would appreciate it. And I know everybody on here would appreciate it.
Hey, Dose, appreciate you saying that. That was beautiful. And right on time, Justin Reynolds, $99.99 dono, $100. We're going to round it up a penny. We'll make Ethan give us a penny. He owes us some money at some point. So $100 dono, that's awesome. We appreciate that. No message in there, just throwing the money in there. So we appreciate that. That's going to go to the Nicholas Children's Hospital. What about, there's no way to segue from that. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, but what, we talked earlier about not really missing out on anything. The market hasn't moved. It's basically been constipated for a month and a half. I don't know what's, it's going to move the market. Are you guys concerned about waiting? It doesn't seem like a lot of you guys, it seems like the narrative is that we're not concerned because the market really hasn't moved. Brady, what do you think about that?
I mean, if you make the minor move, it takes you out of the big move. And if you waited this long, there's just no reason to panic now and send Duncan in a pick for that certain 4, which makes you feel happier today on Twitter that your team got a little better on paper. But ultimately, now you're out of, tomorrow Kevin Durant becomes available and you don't have that extra asset to give up to kind of get him and land him. And maybe that extra pick could be the difference. So I feel like you have to pick one or the other. And I think it's pretty clear what they're focusing on. They're focusing on the big whale. And I just don't think they're going to make that panic move. And that's when it comes back to running it back or running it back worse without PJ. But like Gianni said before, there's still the trade deadline. This team is, even if they go into the season with this team, they're not going to come out of the season with this team. If the Kevin Durant stuff, maybe it doesn't, but it should be a little clearer by that February range. It should be clear with the way they're heading, at least around that time, what the record looks like in Brooklyn. Let's say he goes back to Brooklyn. So everything looks a little differently for the Heat's perspective. I know Alf said it before, Bam at the 2 is probably ideal with Dedmon and Omer in the front court together as well. I think they still need that extra big to kind of make that whole lineup work. But in all seriousness, like it really comes down to if they do run back this team, what do the lineups look like? Like I think Tyler Hero is the starter. If they come back, obviously he's the starting too. But what does everything else look like? Like, are you plugging Caleb Martin at the 4? Those lineups with Jimmy and Bam are not really that great last night. Like, he's more of the plugger in for Jimmy in general, not the guy next to Jimmy. Do you go big with Omer and everybody can have fun on Twitter? Or do you just basically push Jimmy to the 4 and say, we're going to go lean total offense like they've been saying they want to do? Just like when they drafted Nikola Jovic, all they do is preach defense, and all of a sudden they drafted a guy who doesn't defend and goes all offense. Like, if that doesn't show you in the draft which way they're leaning, at least, I think that shows you. So I just don't know how they dissect that. It just comes down to where will they land with that. If they have to go and kind of maneuver those different lineups, where does that land them by the time they can make the move by the deadline? Like, that'll be the question. But, like, they're not going to be a playing team, even though they might be that 10 seed.
We had 2 donos before we keep moving. John Clark, thank you for your $10 dono. He said live forever. Appreciate that. Royal A. Shepherd, $4.99 dono. He says Alf looks like RJ Barrett when he was in high school.
Does that mean that Royal?
And Royal looks like Beetlejuice when he was in high school.
And on that note, Gab, what do you want to follow up what Brady said? What are you thinking about the roster construction?
Beetlejuice is taller.
I would appreciate if we didn't do the big box. There we go. Shout out Royal, man. But yeah, I think the roster construction is a little funky right now. Like, you're doing power forward by committee, but you don't really have any starting caliber 4 on your team. So it's a little iffy right now. And we're saying we're leaning into offense, but simultaneously, is Nikola Jovic supposed to be a better offensive player than PJ Tucker? I don't think so from day one. So you're obviously doing some projecting with a Haywood Highsmith. I don't think Caleb Martin as a starter makes that much sense. So to me, it really just it's either you're going big with Yurt or you're hoping Haywood Highsmith just has that dog in him and he just starts to play like PJ Tucker, the way he said during Summer League, and then you go from there. But it's weird. Like, this is a weird roster construction right now. Obviously, you have Jimmy and Bam, so how much of that really even matters? They're so talented. They're so good. But it's going to be a little bit weirder to start. I think starting Tyler Hero will help a lot, though, in terms of having those faster starts. And if whoever you plug in at the 4 can shoot from above the break, it'll definitely help the offense a lot. Because PJ Tucker, when you played against those better teams in the playoffs, we love PJ. We know what PJ brings. He's a really good corner shooter, but teams were abusing the fact that he was scared of shooting from above the break. So you add that factor in, and maybe the starting offense actually looks cleaner. And I think having a good screen setter, which could kind of lean in Yurt's direction a little bit, would help Kyle and Tyler in the starting lineup kind of get some of those cleaner looks off pull-ups.
Real quick, we just got 2 more donations on the page. One of them was from Tatum Ireland, donated. And then Ben Tovia, friend of the program, friend of all programs, I would say, Ben Tovia, he also donated. Thank you guys for making donations. We are now, looks like we are right around $1,100. So continuing to push it up over $1,100. I missed one right there. So looking good. G, what do you think about, the question that we kind of posed to Brady and Gab, like, the situation of waiting, going? What do you think we should do?
I mean, they're going to wait until stuff becomes available. On the Jovic thing, I think that we said this on our show the other day. Like, I don't think expecting a guy like that to be good day one is wise, as kind of Gad talked about a little bit. Like, these are projects and you wait. I mean, you wait that out. You kind of see how the market forms. I don't know if we set our sights at Durant, but other guys become available, as we saw with Ariza or whatever. I mean, they've had a revolving door at those kind of wingy 4s, and they'll find something that's, decent, or, sometimes you luck out and you get Iguodala and Crowder and you get to the finals. Other times, you're trying Harkless, you're trying Ariza. I mean, it's a very difficult position to fill, and it's very expensive. And their money's just tied up in other places. And it's kind of difficult when there's a hard cap in place and everything to kind of retain, especially older guys. If PJ was a lot younger, I don't think that we'd be having any conversation. I'm pretty sure they would have hard capped themselves and dealt with the circumstances later. But, as you saw, as Gad pointed out, he was a problem in the playoffs. Rob Williams was just totally not even in the corner, not even above the break. They were just ignoring him in the corner, right? So clearly, like, he was a limiter when it really mattered. for their offense. And I think that their sights are set bigger. So Jimmy at the 4 is a likely answer to start the season, unless that Highsmith or that other kid from San Antonio like really works out. I mean, they're going to have chances in camp and in preseason to like prove themselves. Probably Jimmy at the 4 is probably not the best to keep him healthy. That's a lot of wear on his body. And I think it should be a weapon, not your main arsenal, I think, in the long haul of the season. But they may have to go to that for some time. We may see some 2 big lineups that we know how much I hate those, but some of it's going to be by necessity, and we're they're gonna feel it out from there. But I think we all agree that they're going to go into the playoffs a different looking team, and they're going to have options, whether it's guys that they get in a buyout market, whether it's guys that they trade for. And by the way, guys, other teams, like look at what happened to the Warriors. They can't keep, they couldn't keep Otto Porter, right? And there are going to be other teams that think that they're better than they are, that are going to try to get rid of guys that they know that they're not going anywhere and that they're not going to keep past this offseason. Stuff becomes available. It's a very fluid league. So I would advise everybody to be patient, to wait, and to see what becomes available.
Dose, did he just do a could go either way?
He really did.
I really did. It was a lot of work.
I think he did a might go either way, actually.
Oh, man, even worse.
Right.
Sean, is 5 reasons going to run it back?
Man, I didn't know we were going to go this direction.
Somebody had to ask. I mean, if the Heat are going to run it back, I mean, somebody had to.
I think our agents are all in discussion right now. We're trying to iron things out. We're weighing different possibilities. We'll see what happens. It could go either way. Basically the same thing. It could go either way.
Or it might go either way.
It might go either way. You're right. I got a couple donos to read. Voodoo Vision donated $4.99. We appreciate that. Then we have a question. I'm going to throw this one to Elf because I know Elf, like myself, has a strong heart for Duncan Robinson. It says, if you can get a 4 for Duncan without picks, Jonathan Isaac is the question. Can't imagine we can get much for him. Then okay. But otherwise, Elf is right. Try Duncan at the 4. I want to give Elf the platform. We can go full screen. We can do whatever.
Can I interject before part about Jonathan Isaac? Because you don't know what January 6th trial he's going to be in. So his availability is a huge question mark. So I would advise against Mr. Why I Stand. Continue on.
Yeah, get Jonathan Isaac away from my team. You don't ever trade a star like Duncan Robinson for Jonathan Isaac. But yeah, it started off as a joke, start Duncan at the 4, but I've talked myself into it, right? Because like I'm looking around the league and I see, Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, I'm like, okay, let one of them chase Duncan around screens for 48 minutes. It's a great idea. And then, Duncan, he has 6 fouls, so use him in like 3 minutes, but hey, don't worry about that. But yeah, seriously, I think people are like going too crazy about the offseason. Like Gianni said, like Kevin Durant is available. Kevin Durant wants to come to your team. You exhaust every single possibility until that option is done. It's run out. He goes somewhere else, or he stays with Brooklyn. And then in the meantime, like Gianni said, there's going to be other power forwards. There's going to be guys that shake loose. I think Duncan Robinson in a pick at some point get you in the conversation for a power forward. I don't like any of the options that are on the team right now. I know Jovic had one really good summer league game, and the entire Twitter sphere went absolutely insane. I'm hearing about Haywood Highsmith. If you don't get out of my face with Haywood Highsmith, I don't want Caleb Martin. I don't want Caleb Martin starting at the 4. Listen, Haywood Highsmith is nice. It's a nice story. If Haywood Highsmith is starting at the 4 at the beginning of the season, where it's something wrong. Something went wrong, right?
Can I interject here? Sorry, can I interject? Myers Leonard started like 40 games for us, and we still made it to the finals one year. It is not about how you start; it's how you finish. Anybody,
I get it.
Luke Babbitt started at one point.
I get it, but if it was never the plan for Haywood Highsmith to start at power forward going into next season.
Oh,
so
hell
if
no!
He's starting. That's what I'm saying. If Haywood Highsmith is your starting power forward, something went wrong. So I do think they'll figure something out. They'll make some kind of move, whether it be like John Collins or something like that. But until Kevin Durant, something is decided there, you don't do anything, right? You when the whale like this comes around and he wants to come to your team, You do everything possible to get him. And then Heat fans are just going to have to sit tight. Like, I know we love transactions. Like, we love transactions more than we love actual games, it seems like. So, like, it feels like nothing has happened, but nothing's happened really around the league. Like, what? Am I supposed to get crazy over? What's that dude that signed in New York? I can't even remember his name. Malcolm Brogdon.
Jalen
like,
Brunson?
Yeah, him. And then Malcolm Brogdon. Like, none of these guys, I don't care. Like, I don't care about it. Like, none of these guys move the needle. Like, at all. Like, are the Knicks going to be better because they got Brunson? I have no idea. Like, he looks like Royal Shepherd. Like, I just don't think that any of these moves that have been made so far are big needle movers. And I think Heat fans just need to chill.
We do have another dono. I'm going to swing it over to Sean Pasick. $10. Those Canadian dollars. Those are worth a little bit more, I believe. I don't know, but Jim Butler at the 4. Is there any evidence that guarding up affects durability? I've only heard this as an NBA media. I don't even know what that word is. Contrivance. I don't know. You can't use big words. Look at the panel that's here right now. Maybe Dose can understand those. I don't got it. So,
I feel like that's kind of
followed by a podcast host suggesting a team plays smaller. Dose, what do you think about Jimmy at the 4?
Well, I think they played best when Jimmy's at the 4 a couple of years ago. And I think that, Sean, you often talked about how getting Jimmy off the ball, and maybe Brady as well, right, is like so beneficial for his game. But mostly I'd like to talk about how Duncan, what percentage of Sean and Alf, your support of Duncan really comes down to just being obstinate and trying to argue with the rest of Heat Twitter?
That is 150. That's 150% of my support of Duncan.
Right.
Like, I just like to go the other way when it's like when the criticisms just become out of control and just outlandish. I just want to go the other way. Duncan is whatever to me, but it's just fun to just argue with Heat Twitter about these things.
Sean?
And it's unfortunate that, like Heat Twitter, a lot of people don't understand sample sizes. So if you find a certain sample size that shows that Duncan is a 40% shooter and the Heat win most of those games, like, that shows his worth. That's why we should keep him around. You just have to find the right sample size. You have to cut out certain games that happen after a certain time zones. And he's probably one of the best shooters in the NBA, to be honest with you.
It is interesting, though, Jimmy, Brady, right? When in the regular season, Jimmy on the ball is not nearly as effective as Jimmy in the playoffs on the ball. Is that true statistically? Because to the eye test, it definitely looks that way.
I mean, yeah, it definitely looks that way. Like, I feel like, especially because the shot making just rises. Like, I feel like that's like the non-X's and O's thing to say is like the eye test of saying guys just step up in the playoffs. But that's Jimmy. Like, Jimmy just totally just takes it to another level of shot making. The jumper wise, it's not as much one-legged jumpers when there's 3 seconds left. It's more set feet going right up. Mm-hmm. The reason I will say, though, that the reason I'm not against the Jimmy at the 4 thing as much as I feel like other people in terms of durability, and I've been saying this a lot, is they switch everything anyway. Like, just because he starts the game on paper next to the starting 4 on the other team does not mean he's going to be guarding the starting 4 on the other team the entire time. There's exceptions like Minnesota, maybe like Boston, but most of the teams don't have a massive starting 4 anyway. Like, I don't feel like the durability there is much of a worry if you're just going that route. I feel like there's more of a worry of maybe a team having a little bit more size and posting them up or posting certain guys up off switches. Like, okay, I can understand that point, but the durability thing, Jimmy's injuries as well have never come off like long, lengthy periods, in my opinion. It comes down off of a layup and he tweaks his ankle the wrong way because he doesn't have it braced up. Like, those things are just kind of happen out of the blue. And then on the Duncan conversation, I'll just add, I don't know if it's a crazy thing to say, but I think if he is on the team, because I have a feeling he probably is, because I don't think they make that minor move because I think they're going to wait it out for the big guy. I think it has a role, at least to start the season before the deadline. I think for one, if you want to talk about value and trade value, you try to get him some reps to maybe up his value before the deadline, if you want to look at it from that aspect. And 2, if they're leaning offense, just because he had a little bit of a down season does not mean he can't be utilized again. Like, I think there's a way where he plays really well in training camp and he's utilized at least off the bench in certain spots, which is also weird to say because this team is just full of guards. Like, I don't know where guards are be plugged in. The only way I could see them figuring out ways to plug these guards in is moving Jimmy to the forward and starting lineup and adding an extra guard in there. Like, that's the one way I could see it being utilized. But you go down the list, if you have Kyle and Tyler starting and Gabe and Depot off the bench, you're still working in Max. You're still working in Duncan. You're still working in Caleb. I know he's now a 4 all of a sudden. I feel like he was a 2 a couple years ago. I don't know how this stuff just changes once they enter like the Miami Heat. But it's going to be interesting how they just kind of mix all these guys in. But I see a way that Duncan's actually utilized if he's on the team.
I just want to point out Duncan Robinson is the same height as Shane Battier, who was a starting power forward on a championship team. Just putting that out there.
Dose, to answer your question, Jimmy Butler in the playoffs as a pick and roll ball handler was 1.09 points per possession. In the regular season, he was 0.92 points per possession as a pick and roll ball handler. The important part there is that in the regular season, it was 22% of his possessions were running that action, and in the playoffs, it went up to 26, and he went from the 70th percentile to the 86th percentile. So not only was he running a lot more, he was much more efficient. So I test passes. That's 100% correct. Also,
I had it first.
And in
Duncan
the playoffs,
Robinson,
everything's like tighter in the half court. By the way, I just want to add in, like, it's tougher to work, like be good in pick and rolls in the playoffs compared to the regular season.
Duncan Robinson was their most efficient pick and roll ball handler. He was scoring 3 points per possession.
It's coming to fruition. He's about to start at the 4.
Don't ask me how many he ran.
Yeah, I was about to say, how many total possessions?
We don't need to. He was a pick and roll ball handler 1.6% of the time. But those 1.6, he was literally getting the maximum amount of points you could.
I mean, technically, he could get fouled and get an and 1-3, but
I don't think that counts in PPP. Does it?
Okay,
I don't know.
I might be changing the rules here.
That's a Nikias thing. I don't know. We gotta.
Hey, Manny, cue up the G League highlights. Let's get that going. Let's get the narrative going. Those G League highlights.
Yeah.
The slowest
He looks like
crossover
a
I've
future
ever
Hall
seen.
of Famer. Yep.
Listen, Bam's bag is extensive.
This really took a turn. This took a turn.
What's better, that Duncan highlight reel or like the Miami Pro-Am Bam highlight reel? Because I might lean Duncan.
Duncan was saucing fools. Get out of here!
Bam looked slow against.
Bam is slow, bullying PE teachers. Like, no, I'm talking about Duncan Robinson playing against professionals, saucing dudes on. I mean, ridiculous.
Who was arguing about the Kyle Lowry highlight reel the other day?
At the buffet?
I was arguing with someone about the Kyle Lowry.
Me and Roy were arguing about it.
Someone gave a long litany of statistics, and he's like, "Oh, it's just a highlight reel."
Any film is a highlight reel when you put it on Twitter, apparently.
Yep.
The drama of Heat Twitter. Look, we got a couple more donations here. Let me pull it up here. Jordan Alfasa donated. So we are now at almost $1,200 on the page. We are going to continue to take those super chats. Oh, we just got one from Miami Heat Beat. You guys want to read that? That's your company. You want to go for it? Let's have G go for it. G, you got a good voice.
I don't even know who did that. This question's for Dose. Where can I find Nikola Jovic at the dairy aisle?
I don't do that. That's Crab. Crab does that. You'd have to download our latest episode from our MySpace page, but you have to be someone with very strong internet because the buffering is quite slow.
Yeah.
Wait, and how broke is Miami Heat Beat that we donated $4.99?
We donated $100, but the thing hasn't showed up on the thing. I wanted it to be like a thing, but it says what was the message? It said your bank transfer is in process. You should see the funds withdrawn from your account within 7 days. I did the bank transfer from the page because I didn't want to get up and get my credit card. So I don't know. You'll see it eventually. It was $100.
That's the most Gianni thing ever, right there.
Yeah, no, classic. I can't do shit right. You know.
How come your cable hasn't gone out yet?
How do you know it hasn't? How do you know that I'm not on a hotspot? I was late.
I'm reporting here first that Miami Heat Beat is broke.
We're in shambles, bro. We're hard capped.
Tough times out here in this economy. Sebastian, thanks for your $19.99 dono. On vacation, had to pull up. That's my guy. He lives here in Philly. We used to be almost neighbors down in Manayunk. So good guys. Thank you, Sebastian. We're getting these super chats over to Nicholas Children's Hospital. So if you want to ask questions, you want to make comments, you want to make fun of us, whatever you want to do, just throw them in the super chat. We'll read them when they pop up there. We always appreciate that. We're going to go for about 30 more minutes, but if you keep super chatting, we'll stay up. We got nothing to do. None of us have lives. We just live in this little podcast world. So
I'm like, that's a damn lie. I'm about to better call Saul.
Getting late.
I know.
I got
so listen,
came out of my paycheck.
that's Hey, more than our paycheck over here, man. So look,
Negotiate
Tony,
You can
that
promise me an
paycheck.
appearance fee.
it's tough. It's tough. It's tough. Tony, what are you thinking about Victor Oladipo? How do you think his role looks this year? It sounds like Tyler here is kind of a shoe-in. If he's back, he's going to be the starting shooting guard. So how do you think Vic's going to look, on that 6-man role?
Yeah, that's the question I brought up at the beginning of the show, because you're starting to try and find places for all these guards that you have on the roster, And if guys are actually better defensive players, we might have to run a lot of 3-guard this year. So you might have to consider what you do with Vic as a starter or a 6-man. Does he lead that second unit? What's his role? But if the goal is to actually maximize Bam as much as possible, and Jimmy can legitimately space to the break, the Jimmy at the 4 thing works, and then maybe you just run 3-guard. Maybe that's how you start your season and try and figure it out and just start playing rotation science until you can find something that works. But yeah, he got paid a good chunk of money, man. I think they trust his progression. I think they trust him at least to lead the second unit. That seems like his role right now to me. You just have him as a 6-man off the bench. We'll run it back. I'll put some bets on him for futures as a 6-man of the year, like we did with Tyler last year. Like, why not? Let's do it again. Let's make that possible and happen again in Miami. That same kind of production from a player. But I was thinking about this when you guys were talking about Jimmy at the 4, right? If Kyle can actually space when shooters go under pick and rolls, and Jimmy can bring his shot out to the break, the offense has to run better, right? Like, we have to be a better offense that way than we were constructed last year. It's an open question.
You saying like schematically?
I'm just talking about as far as flow goes, right? Because if you're actually trying to maximize Bam to create as much space for him to be an offensive force as much as possible, like PJ spaced to the corner for half the season, and then defenders would leave him alone, right? Kyle didn't have his shot until we were 3/4 of the way through the year. So if those 2 guys are spacing the floor and we have a 3rd guard out there, Bam's kind of maximized. This offense might actually run better than it did last year.
I mean, the way you maximize Bam is, get him north-south. But I think one of the adjustments for him was not running as much elbow stuff, right? So they would have him, right? They trigger handoffs or, do the Chris Bosh elbow sets or whatever they want to do. Is more, they made it a point to do more stuff with Tyler on the ball, which I think Tyler earned, by the way. And I don't think Tyler's the pick and roll passer that Jimmy is. So that, Jimmy's diet of pick and rolls went down as Tyler's went up, and Tyler did more stuff. And then Bam played a lot of minutes with Tyler, and Kyle was kind of in and out of the lineup at times. And at times when Bam wasn't healthy, Kyle was, and, it was a little funky for him. But I think that ultimately, he's a rolling big man at heart. That's where he's at his best. And I think that anybody who wants him to dribble from the 3-point line isn't necessarily being fair to his skill set. And he can do some of that, but I think what you want him to, he's a rim running big that, like you said, you get him in space, but it ultimately falls on your ball handlers. And I think in particular, Tyler's improvement at seeing those passing windows a half second early, because, and Brady, I'm sure that you've noticed when you watch, like he notices the pass the second the window closes. And I think that he's gotten a lot better at that. But I think the next progression in his game is making that read before that happens. So he's more in sync, like a guy like, D Wade or Kyle Lowry, that, they kind of know how the play is going to progress, and they're getting in those passing motions, and they're kind of manipulating defenses like that. That's how you maximize Bam, right? Getting the spacing and the pick and roll handler as a deadly passer.
I wanted to add in that you bring up the pick and roll stuff with Tyler. The one downfall of him playing off the bench this season, and Dedmon was great for a lot of the season, but the slower-footed rolling big is not as great for him as the kind of quick first step rolling big and Bam. Like the pick and rolls with Tyler and Bam saved basically the first and second round of the playoffs. Like they basically dominated at the end of the Atlanta series. And before Embiid came back in, game 3, the games 1 and 2 were won because of Tyler Bam pick and roll. So now if you're adding him to the starting lineup, more Tyler Bam pick and rolls, less of Tyler having to kind of create that his own shot time and time again. With guys just fully containing him off a Dedmon roll, like it just changes things altogether. And I think the Bam conversation is going to have to change this season, and it won't. Like it just won't happen. But the fact that if they do go with this exact roster, and as much as we can talk about offensive and maybe things change for him defensively, and I've been saying this, he's going to have so much more on his plate defensively. Like we keep saying the words leading offense. Them leading offense means that Bam has so much more to cover up defensively. So the fact that if we're going to be having the conversation of why is Bam not doing this offensively or taking control, like he's going to have just a full plate on the other end of the floor. And that's not an excuse. I know we're going to hear max player, this, that. He's the second best player on your team of a contender. It's just the point that these aren't things that are going to make it easier for him, I think, in general. Like, it's going to come down to natural improvement in aggression. It's always going to come down to aggression. But the defensive stuff is just kind of interesting in that fashion. And the other thing I wanted to throw in, since this is a Spoelstra type show here, we keep talking about Pat Riley and liking big lineups. The most Spoelstra thing to do this season would be roll out a starting lineup of Kyle at the 1, Gabe at the 2, then go Tyler, Jimmy, Bam. That would if there was like a Spo lineup when you mentioned 3 guard lineups, for him to not go big in the front court but go small in the backcourt. Many people may hate that, but it opens up a bench unit for Depot to run with let's just say Max and Caleb and Yurt. Like it's not crazy to say that they would do that. And if you're going to go offense or whatever, it at least gives you a little bit more defensively, even if you're lacking a little bit of size. But they're going to try. This is going to be that season when there's not going to be one starting lineup. There's not going to be 2. There's not going to be 3. There's going to be so many starting lineups throughout the first few months if they do have the same team, because they're just going to try to figure out what works. Like they figured out what works very, very late in the season last year. Like they just threw Max in for Duncan and everything just started to click. Sometimes that's all you need. They're going to try and figure it out. But the small lineups like that, I think, are going to be something they actually do lean on.
We give Gianni so much shit about anime figures, and I think Alf has been playing with this Hulk figure more than he's been on the fucking show today.
Oh,
Look at this.
Wow. Where'd you get that?
You guys call me a nerd?
I was just
Listen, I'm open about it.
I was just demonstrating Duncan's wingspan. Might be the perfect 4 next to Bam. Just saying.
Might be.
Brady, to your point, Tyler plus Bam without Jimmy, 121 offensive rating.
And I think that also without Jimmy just means the more spacing for Tyler and Bam, the better. Like that's just what it is. If you can put as many shooters out there as possible when it's not that willingness off the corner to tag down, like even if it's your best player, but it's Jimmy, they're going to leave that to tag down and it just kind of mess up Bam in the lane. When you take that out of the equation, you could put those 2 out there. That was the other rotate. We talk about the lineup change for Max for Duncan last season. A big change last season was they changed the rotation. They brought in Tyler earlier and Jimmy came out and they allowed Tyler and Bam to get some more run together because it looked so good. And that translated to the playoffs. So I guess that's the plus to the starting lineup. Like no matter what that 5th guy is, if it's Duncan at the 4, if it's Darius Days at the 4, those 2 kind of running pick and rolls is the ideal, I guess, thing to look for.
But my question is this: every time we talk about Tyler's best minutes, it's always with Jimmy off the floor. So I just don't understand why there's this push for Tyler in the starting lineup. Like to me, it's just not. It's not what's best for him or what's best for the team. Hey, Troppy baby,
What's going on?
What's going on with your face?
I finally made a cogent basketball point, and you just jumped in here and ruined it.